Hey guys, there's a reason I'm wearing this shirt. I'm having to go on my tiptoes to show you that. I want to have a chat about television shows. It was originally going to be a rant, but it's sort of expanded as I started doing my little bullet points on my computer there. So it's not actually a rant. Okay, some of it is. So what I want to start with is some shows start out great or sort of mediocre, but they get better as they go along. For example, Stargate SG-1, Smallville, Cheers, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yet for some reason other television shows go the opposite way. They start out great or mediocre and then they just somehow get worse. Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, Heroes, Roseanne, Thundercats. And right now I am currently watching MacGyver. I'm just about to watch season 6 and I have to say, what the heck is going on with that show? It started off great and then it got better and the 5th season just like, what? I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but there was one episode where MacGyver went into a dream sequence of dreaming about the Old West, and the whole story centred around this one little plot. And all I could think was, it's a dream, we don't care. In the last episode of that season, he died, went with his grandfather who also died on this big ship, and he met his dead parents, but he had to come back to life to save his best friend from being killed. Huh? Don't get me wrong, the majority of that season was pretty good, but there were some that were just like, what the? But let's move on. Like for example, some shows never even get a chance. Firefly. Oh Fox, you rascals. Missed out on that one, didn't you? Firefly is now a cult classic, and they cancelled it before it was even seen. And the best thing was they did a spin-off movie that was deemed as one of the best sci-fi movies of all time. Just goes to show. But let's look at the other end of the spectrum. Some shows go on for far too long. Yes, 2.5 Men, I mean you. And thankfully it's just been announced that it's finishing. Let's talk about the television shows that got cancelled. And this is where I was going to make it a television show rant. Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. I clearly remember at the end of that 4th season where they had a little baby in a cradle and it was to be continued. No, they didn't. It just, that's it, we've had enough, cancel. I almost tore my hair out. Yes, the show had declined in quality, it became very mediocre, a lot mediocre. But I want to know, who was that baby? Where did it come from? And now if you watch the DVD, it doesn't say to be continued, it's just like, la-di-da-di-da, we're finished with a baby. What? So what went wrong with Lois and Clark? Well, the first 2 seasons were perfect. That classic moment at the end of season 2 where Clark asked Lois to marry him, and she replied with, who's asking, Clark or Superman? Brilliant! And so the 3rd season was about these two getting together, and you know, it seemed to pay off until the clone business kicked in. They cloned Lois and then they had this fake wedding and people were just like, what the heck is going on? But it soon eventually worked out, and then the 4th season came along. What happened? It was like, oh, let's get rid of all the good writers, bring in all the rubbish ones. And so Lois and Clark just went gone. Another series that declined in quality? Chuck. And it lasted 5 seasons because Subway helped them out. Another one that got cancelled after its 2nd season? Star Trek. But, thanks to an already growing fan base, Star Trek was renewed for a 3rd season. I bet they wish they didn't now. That 3rd season was awful. Spock's brain, anyone? One of the most awful episodes ever. So rightly so, it got cancelled after season 3. Of course, we all know that it went on into movies and countless spin-offs. Talking of which, another one that got cancelled, Star Trek Enterprise. Unfortunately, that was doomed to fail from the beginning. The fans were screaming, no, you don't do before Captain Kirk. Ah, where's the proper theme tune? Even though I enjoyed that Russell Watson song. The very fact that the first 2 seasons was only called Enterprise, no Star Trek in the title whatsoever until the 3rd. And they seemed to be stealing stories from other Star Trek series. Then they started introducing aliens like Ferengi and the Borg, long before that they were supposed to be. Although technically that Borg episode was absolutely fantastic. But unfortunately it died a death because it became more of a soap opera. Another show, Knight Rider. 1st season was brilliant, 2nd season was okay, 3rd season was meh, 4th season, although I did like Super Pursuit, that was cool. But I think I was the only one who liked that because at the end of season 4, bye, gone. Here's one for you, Angel. Boy were the fans screaming about that. I was one of them. I'm not going to give anything away, but any of you who've seen Angel and saw the very last episode, right up to the end, you will have been screaming at that TV like, why? Luckily I collect the comic book so I know what happened afterwards. But I think it was Joss Whedon's way of saying to the TV channel, thanks for cancelling me, have that. And finally, Stargate SG-1, even though it lasted 10 years. I think the downfall with that was Richard Dean Anderson was no longer a regular. They finished off the Goa'uld story and started coming up with these new aliens that nobody really cared about. The problem was that they got too complacent and they've decided that, oh, we're just going to get renewed every season. And they were, until the end of the 10th, and then they were told, no, you're not getting an 11th season. But thankfully, they actually got to finish off the stories in 2 standalone TV movies. So that was good of them. But the other reason was, it was because it was MGM, and they were sort of like, well, almost, you know, bankrupt. I don't think they are now though. But let's move on. Let's look at the TV shows that actually got to finish. Star Trek The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine and Voyager. 7 seasons, all 3 of them. Although technically I think Deep Space Nine's 7th season was a little bit meh. But the rest of them, brilliant. 10 seasons of Smallville, and they got to finish on their own terms, which was awesome. Cheers, 11 seasons. It's a classic comedy. And not to mention its spin-off, Frasier, that lasted 11 years too. And both of them finished on their own terms. The now cult classic Lost. 6 seasons and they finished on their own terms. Even though a lot of people were like, what the heck? We don't want it to end like that. Get over it. Another series that didn't get cancelled but finished on its own terms, Will and Grace. 8 seasons. 8! Babylon 5, it got its full 5 seasons, but there was a little bit of a hoopla. J. Michael Straczynski, the creator of Babylon 5, wanted to go a whole 5 years. But of course, usually television series get renewed like once every year. Although some actually get 2 or 3 years. Straczynski got promised 4 years. But he was always like, what about my 5th year? What about my 5th year? And Warner Brothers were like, we'll let you know. 2nd, 3rd and 4th seasons were immaculate. And yet Warner Brothers waited until the whole 4th season was finished, completed, in the can and on the television screens before they said, here you go, 5th season. I think Straczynski pulled the rest of his hair out because he tied up the stories at the end of the 4th season, and now he suddenly had a 5th season with no actual stories to tell. So he had to come up with something, and the first half was terrible. That was Warner Brothers' fault, but I still enjoyed the whole 5 seasons and the spin-off movies. Another one that's now currently in its 8th season, Big Bang Theory, and we know it's going to last until at least 10 seasons. Let's face it, it is awesome. It's definitely the funniest thing on television right now. But let's not forget the biggest and best comedy of all time, Friends. I absolutely loved that show. 10 years it lasted, 10. And the way it finished, I have to say, I actually cried. Of course, when the spin-off show Joey showed up, I started crying again. The writing quality of Friends was up here, Joey was... I don't know why, it was the same people. And let's not forget those TV shows that seem to never end, like The Simpsons, which to be perfectly honest I stopped watching after the 5th season, I got bored with it. And South Park, which I still love to this day. And there you go, there's my rant, talk, or whatever about television shows. I hope this video isn't too long. But before I go, I just want to remind you of these boxes at the side of me, are links to other videos that I've made, like Smegcrace and Smegcrace Review, and also on my second channel where I do my vlogging. If you want to check them out, you can just go click on them. Also, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter by clicking on the links down below in the description. And also down there is a subscribe button. If you haven't already, please do so if you want to see more of these videos or any of the other videos that I make. Feel free to leave in the comments the television shows that you've loved, and have any of them been cancelled, and if so, how angry were you? Thanks for watching. Until the next time, peace out. Brilliant! Huh? What? What? What the...